guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. Our toil, resources, and livelihood are all involved. So is the very structure of our society.
All right, folks. Thank you for joining the little Bergy bit I got going on here this morning. And Bergy bit's a thing. It's like a little iceberg. My name's Bergy, so I'm using it. Patent pending, right? Wanted to update y'all on some information that I just sent out, right? We discussed this a bit the other day. But I just updated some information to Congressman Crist, and it's pretty good information. It's very important information. I'm not going to be able to reply to any messages or anything, but if anybody has any questions on this, please, you can see all the information at victimoftheswamp.com, or you can contact me in any number of different ways through Facebook or whatever, and I will be happy to answer any questions that anybody has, right? So this weekend, Charlie Crist made the news by basically calling out Attorney General Barr for keeping information from the public, right? For keeping information from the Mueller report from the public and from Congress, and I have an issue with that because back in 2017, I reached out to Congressman Charlie Crist. He was my congressman, right? And I provided him all of this information. And I want to go over real quick, just real quick, what I sent them back in 2016. And I will also go over the email I just sent requesting a follow-up. Let me transition you guys over to this so you can see it in full screen here, and I'll read it in case you're like on your phone or something, much of it. Let me transfer you over here. Okay, so to start with, I would like to point out that I originally got this information on November 20th of 2015, almost a year before the 2016 presidential election, just within a couple weeks, right? And I warned him about this. I warned him about these people, about using social media psychological warfare applications to influence the outcome of the 2016 elections, right? And the reason this is in this thread is because I forwarded the thread I forwarded the thread of what I was speaking to with Charlie Crist people to that guy Mark Douglas with WTOG News Channel 8. He's an investigative reporter, but he doesn't seem to like to investigate. I would have to say he's probably the worst investigative reporter on the freaking history of the planet, because he's missing out on a Pulitzer here. But that's my personal opinion. So this is the information that I sent to Kendrick Lewis in Charlie Crist's office. And Kendrick, I said, I just sent this email to Mark Douglas, tried to warn about the social media psychological warfare. And this is in October of 2017. My daughter's birthday, actually. Happy birthday, Mia. I just sent this email to Mark Douglas to try to warn about the social media psychological warfare application I developed for technology being used to influence the 2016 election in October 2015, but nobody would listen. Below is direct evidence that it was used by the RNC, John McCain, and Paul Manafort in 2008. Right? I believe my application, the ShadowNet, who we were partners with at the time, with Paul Manafort, used IIA-IO, Interactive Internet Activities, to influence the McCain campaign. It was in its early stages, and I wasn't involved, so that could explain why he lost. But I believe actually it was used in the primary, just like Manafort tried using it in the primary, or just like Cy Group offered it to Trump, but he turned it down for use in the primary during the 2016 elections during the convention. I asked you to provide this information to Congressman Adam Schiff, former DOJ Director Mueller. I am willing to provide testimony of my personal conversations with Jim Jones. The technology intended to use it for altering the outcome of elections and made it commercially available as such. All right, so the response I got from Kendrick that was October 30th. Then on October 30th, about 5 minutes after I sent that to Kendrick, she replied, "Patrick, thank you for forwarding these items. This is not really in our district's office wheelhouse. We conduct constituent casework, but I will forward to our D.C. staff for review." So their D.C. office even had knowledge of this. I'm not sure if it's appropriate for Congressman Crist to forward such to other members of Congress or DOJ, but DC will have more clarity. Best Kendrick, right? So then I responded back on November 7th, like a week or so later. And Kendrick, did you hear anything back from Washington? Per my request in the thread below on this information, I wish to provide them. I believe Manafort may have believe this information may be helpful based on published reports of election influence by Paul Manafort, especially in light of accusations he was providing Russians with proprietary tactics and using social media influence operations, social media influence elections and push their narratives. I'm not always. Sometimes I'm in a hurry, or even on my phone writing these. These claims, as listed in Manafort's indictments, occurred a very short time prior to classified work I did for the Department of Defense in social media psychological warfare. Manafort's strategic partnership with Dynology, the company I developed this for and owned by former National Security Advisor, which kept the intellectual property rights to the taxpayer-funded social media PSYOP application and strategies and made it available for commercial sale, is deeply troubling. Okay, so I worked for Obama's national security advisor doing this, right? Did Obama know? And keep in mind, so that's where you got Charlie Crist. He doesn't apparently want, I'm sure he doesn't want Obama tied to this, but he is. Actually, the only person not tied to the shadow net is Trump. Just because, how would Trump have known that Manafort, or no one's shown any indication that Trump had any idea that Manafort did this very stuff? Working for Obama's national security advisor back from 2007 to 2010, right? So that's curious. So her response was, Mr. Bergy, unfortunately, even though the congressman has voiced support for a bipartisan independent commission to investigate Russian interference in the presidential election, per the House Committee on Ethics, our office cannot submit the information you have provided to the DOD on your behalf. You are welcome to contact the Intelligence Committee, but we cannot get involved with this investigation. Amazing, right? Because he's on the he's on the Intelligence Committee, right? And so before I go on to the next email will be my response to to Chris today, because in January of 2019, about 2 years or so after this was done, that was in 11/7/17, so 1/4 of 19, right? More than a year later. I went back to Congressman Crist's office. I told them that I had now information that 8 people under Mueller's indictments, and by the way, when I got that response from her, they responded from Crist's office. They did respond with the phone number for the Intelligence Committee, or for Mueller's office. I did contact Mueller's office, and I did provide them with the information, but Mueller's office never responded back, right? But following Mueller's indictments, I noticed that 8 people in 2 companies, Wikistrat and Psy Group, were all directly connected not only to Mueller's indictments, but to my development of the shadow net, and not tangential relationships. I mean next person or first person relationships in working with this. Now, This is the so they've Charlie Crist has known about this since since going back to October 30th at least, and that was actually before. That's follow up to probably August September of 2017. Now. Um, how can they say? So what I have to say about that is, okay. So I contacted him back in 2019. I worked and then at Charlie Crist's office in St. Petersburg, and their veteran liaison Gershom uh, sent my information to Adam Schiff's office, to Devin Nunes and to Mueller, and I followed up with him a month later and said, "Hey, what's the status on this?" He, right in front of me, faxed all of my information. I sat there while he punched the stuff into the fax machine and faxed so Charlie Crist's office in 2019 apparently can send it over and get involved, but it was an ethics violation in 2017. Now, either they lied to me in 2017 or they lied to me and violated ethics in 2019. I'm hoping that's not the case in 2019, because I kind of think if he sits on the Intelligence Committee and you take it to him and he's your congressman, it's in his wheelhouse. But they said it's not in his wheelhouse. So were they lying to me in 17, or was Chris people lying to me in 19? So I sent them this email today, because I find it the height of hypocrisy that he's giving crap to Barr after keeping this information from both the Congressional Intelligence Committees and the public, and potentially even Barr, right? Because he had spoken with Barr. So when I want to know when Charlie Crist spoke with Barr, if he had that information, if he told Barr about my story, right? So I said, so today, this was sent about an hour ago. I said, Dear Kendrick, Dylan, and Carrie, these are the three people that were all involved in the thread below. And I said, as you can see in the thread below, I reached out to your office as a constituent requesting information, both classified and unclassified, regarding Russian interference in the 2016 elections and my work on the social media psychological warfare capabilities I pioneered for then Obama's national security advisor. What I'm trying to address is why you said, see below, it was an ethics violation to assist me in getting this very critical and relevant information to Robert Mueller and the Congressional Intelligence Committee. I ask this because after finding now 8 people and 2 corporations directly tied to my development of the ShadowNet in December 2018, I reached back to your office on or around January 4th, and your veteran which is fully documented, and your veteran liaison Gershom both called them and faxed it to their respective committees. Was it an ethics violation for Gershom to do this, or was I lied to by you when I first reached out to your congressman to Congressman Crist in 2017? Since working with Gershom back in January, I have made several on-the-record and documented attempts to get a response. I did not get a response this past February from Gershom, and which time he refaxed the information, but I have never received any information back. So twice. So did he violate ethics twice, both in January and in February, or was I lied to back in 2017? Nothing was done, and this was allowed to perpetuate. I will close with this and give you an idea of where we are at. In May 2018, Facebook partnered with the Atlantic Council to, quote, restore the integrity of elections worldwide, unquote. The Atlantic Council's chairman of the board at that time was my former boss and Obama's National Security Advisor, General James Jones. Facebook's partnership with General Jones is in direct conflict with Mark Zuckerberg's sworn testimony before Congress that Facebook was doing everything possible to restore the integrity of elections after their role in the 2016 presidential elections. I fail to see how partnering with the founder and owner of the ShadowNet, which is the exact same capability we indicted the 12 Russians for, does anything to restore the integrity of elections as was promised under oath by Mr. Zuckerberg. I imagine there are several countries that would like to speak to Mr. Zuckerberg about that, especially like John Paul Watson, who's looking at suing them from the UK for shutting him down. Probably Russia would have a few words with it too. I'm calling on Congressman Crist, whom, according to Gershom, is personally capitalized aware of my case, to take immediate action. Because I asked Gershom? Is he personally aware? Have you And he said he was. My claims must be investigated, and if found true, Mr. Zuckerberg must be called back to Congress to explain, and a full investigation into this should be implemented. I can only say that had Congressman Crist acted on my official, under penalty of perjury statements to his office, this partnership would never have happened. I feel like I was treated as poorly and for political gain in the same way Dianne Feinstein treated the Ford woman when she came forward. Yeah, I got Forded. Congressman Crist has recently called out AG Barr for withholding information from Congress, and I see his statements as a height of hypocrisy after how my case has been hidden from the public. Should I fail to get a response from your office, I will be filing a complaint with the Department of Justice Inspector General and the Congressional Ethics Committee. Regards, Patrick Bergy. So that's where we are on that. All right, I'm gone probably a little over 5 minutes. I have no idea. Well, yeah, probably over 10 minutes. How do I read all that in less than 5 minutes and explain it? So don't hold me to those 5-minute things, but this is definitely shorter. Folks, we need to find out what happened. We are being lied to. Every single one of us is being lied to. And we need to put a stop to that, right? We need to put an end to that. Gus Bilirakis has known about this since 2015. My congressman, then I'm in Newport Richey, which I ended up moving to when I moved to Clearwater. I then fell under Congressman Crist's jurisdiction, walked straight over to Congressman Crist's jurisdiction, walked into his office in 2017, as you can see by the emails. It's immediately followed up with it. So walked in there, filled out the forms, filled out the privacy forms, did all of that, and then have continued to follow up for a freaking year and a half, people. A year and a half. I am a patriot. I enlisted in the Army at the age of 39 back in 2005. I was the first 40-year-old to complete basic training in Fort Benning's history. If you think this is anything political with me or anything otherwise, you are sadly mistaken. We are being lied to by Fox News, MSNBC, CNN, every single one of these people who've known about this for several years. We are being lied to by Congressman Bilirakis, by Elizabeth Hitos, who's known about this and has been basically worthless in following up. Last time I saw her in the parking lot, she goes, "Oh, I remember you. You're the guy with the megaphone." Yeah, I'm the guy with the megaphone. I'm also the guy that enlisted in the Army at the age of 39, that deployed over to Afghanistan at the age of 41, served my frickin' country, woman. What the hell are you doing? Calling me the guy with the megaphone and not doing crap while these people, Facebook, and your elected representatives are playing frickin' games with you. And these same people, and don't think it's like just Democrats. I worked for Obama's national security advisor. He was best friends with John McCain. Everybody working for Facebook who has partnered with the Atlantic Council, everybody involved with that working for Facebook, were former Karl Rove people. We're George Bush senior campaign advisors. And you wonder why Trump conservatives are being knocked off of Facebook. Does it really look like these people like Trump? No. It's a freaking conspiracy at the highest level. And y'all better do something before they either kill me, pay me off, or do something, right? Because I ain't going to be around forever. And I'm really getting sick of nobody helping me out with this. If you're an American, if you're a patriot, and you somehow think this is okay, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, I think you're freaking out of your mind. And I think you deserve everything you have coming, because I've gone to every extent. These people have destroyed my life. I literally wrote a book called Victim of the Swamp, How the Deep State Destroyed the 40-Year-Old Private. I didn't say how the deep state, hurt the feelings of the 40-year-old private. They freaking destroyed my life. So y'all need to start doing something and stop making political games out of this. It's real. They've partnered with Facebook. Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg lied, in my personal opinion, and based on every bit of evidence you have, he lied to Congress sitting there looking them in the face. And are you going to care about that? Are you going to do anything about it? Judge Jeanine, you've known about this since December of 2018. Sara Carter, you too. You freaking piece of crap. You lying piece of crap. You call yourself a journalist. You've spent hours on this with me. You never said that I lied. You never did anything. You never said, well, you know, I checked into this and you're lying. No. You just, as soon as Judge Jeanine contacted Devin Nunes, I never heard from you again. That's as corrupt as you freaking can get. It violates every single oath you've taken or even considered taking as a journalist, and I'm freaking calling you out. I'm calling General Jones out. I'm calling every single freaking piece of shit who has not done anything in the last 2 years, and now everybody sits there wondering why this is happening. Y'all need to freaking wake up. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed this Bergy bit. Have a good day, folks. I'm not done with this, but y'all have to start helping me out here because I can't do this on my own. All right? Have a good evening. Have a good afternoon. Reach out to me at victimoftheswamp.com. Reach out to me any way you can. Reach out to these people I've mentioned. Reach out to that freaking piece of shit, Sara Carter, who lied to my face and said that this was going on next week. Not to my face, in a freaking text message. Go to my website, victimoftheswamp.com, if you don't believe it. I posted all of their her and Judge Jeanine's text messages right there. You think I'm lying? Do something about it, people. They are using your faith, they are using your trust and your patriotism against you. Have a good day. God bless.
Guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. Our toil, resources, and livelihood are all involved. So is the very structure of our society.
I don't know, man. Yeah, I don't get that, man. They go through all this trouble to get here, and they don't come here in full demo.
Potential for disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist. We must never let the weight of this combination endanger our liberties or democratic processes. Taken for granted. Only an alert and knowledgeable citizen can compel the proper measure of huge industrial and military machinery of our peaceful methods and goals.